If there's one man who built his legacy without ever sitting on the Iron Throne or riding a dragon, it was Corlys Velaryon. Known across the world as the Sea Snake, Corlys transformed House Velaryon into one of the richest and most powerful families in Westeros. By the time the Dance of the Dragons began, he wasn't just a famous lord, he was already a living legend. Corlys was born in 53 AC on Driftmark and developed a love for the sea almost as soon as he could walk. At just 6 years old, he crossed the narrow sea to Pentos, and from that point on he spent nearly every year sailing. Instead of living comfortably as a nobleman, he learned from experienced crews, eventually earning a reputation as one of the finest sailors in Westeros. By 16, he was already captaining his own ship, and over the following years he travelled farther than almost any Westerosi before him. His greatest achievements came aboard the ship he designed himself, the Sea Snake. During 9 famous voyages, Corlys sailed beyond Korth to Yeti and Leng, reached the shadowed city of Ashai, and explored lands that most people in Westeros barely believed existed. He returned with silk, jade, spices, gold, and countless treasures, making House Velaryon wealthier than it had ever been. One of the most intriguing stories from these voyages comes from Ashai, where Corlys claimed he saw Alyssa Farman's sun chaser, a mystery that George R.R. Martin has never fully explained. His adventures became so famous that Meister Mattis later recorded them in the 9 voyages. After becoming Lord of the Tides, Corlys used that fortune to strengthen Driftmark. He built the magnificent castle of High Tide, filled it with treasures gathered from across the known world, and turned House Velaryon into a true naval and trading power. By this point, Corlys was said to be richer than even House Lannister and House Hightower, an extraordinary achievement for a family that had always lived in the shadow of House Targaryen. In 90 AC, Corlys married Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, the daughter of Prince Aemon Targaryen and granddaughter of King Jaehaerys I. Their marriage was one of the strongest political alliances in the realm, but by every account it was also a genuine love match. 2 years later, while Corlys was helping Prince Aemon defend Tarth, Aemon was killed in battle. His death immediately created a succession crisis, and although many believed Rhaenys should inherit as Aemon's only child, King Jaehaerys instead named his younger son, Prince Balon, as heir. Corlys saw this as a direct insult to both his wife and their unborn child. Furious, he resigned from the king's small council and returned to Driftmark with Rhaenys. Their daughter, Rhaenyra Velaryon, was born later that year, followed by Rhaenor Velaryon in 94 AC. When Prince Balon died in 101 AC, the succession question returned once again. At the Great Council of Harrenhal, Corlys used all of his influence to support Rhaenor's claim to the Iron Throne. Since Rhaenys had already been passed over simply because she was a woman, Corlys believed her son had the strongest remaining claim. Despite his efforts, however, the Lords of Westeros chose Viserys Targaryen instead. It was the second time his family had been denied the throne. Corlys suffered another disappointment a few years later when King Viserys I needed a new queen. Many expected the king to marry Rhaenyra Velaryon, finally bringing the royal family and House Velaryon together. Instead, Viserys chose Alicent Hightower. For Corlys, it was yet another rejection, and this time he decided to look elsewhere for allies. He soon joined forces with Prince Daemon Targaryen, whose relationship with his brother had also fallen apart. Together, they launched a campaign against the Triarchy, which had taken control of the Stepstones and threatened trade through the Narrow Sea. While Daemon led the armies, Corlys commanded the Velaryon fleet, and after years of fighting, they seized control of most of the islands. When Daemon crowned himself king of the Stepstones and the Narrow Sea, it was Corlys who placed the crown on his head. By the end of the campaign, Corlys Velaryon had become far more than a legendary explorer. He was now one of the most influential men in the Seven Kingdoms, with unmatched wealth, the greatest fleet in Westeros, close ties to House Targaryen, and a family that stood closer than ever to the Iron Throne. But as history would soon prove, the greatest challenges of Corlys' life were still ahead of him. Corlys eventually found his family tied even closer to the royal line. In 114 AC, his son Rhaenor Velaryon married Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, while his daughter Rhaenyra Velaryon later married Prince Daemon Targaryen. Their children, Jaehaerys, Lucerys, Joffrey, Baelor, and Rhaenyra would all play major roles in the years to come. But before long, tragedy struck. In 120 AC, Rhaenyra died after giving birth to her third child, and only a short time later, Rhaenyra, Lenor was killed by Sir Carl Corre. Within a single year, Corlys had lost both of his children. In 126 AC, another crisis emerged when Corlys fell seriously ill. Believing he was close to death, Sir Velaryon claimed Driftmark for himself, arguing that Rhaenyra's sons were actually fathered by Harwin Strong rather than Lenor. Before the dispute could go any further, Prince Daemon executed Vaemond. Corlys eventually recovered, but the conflict made one thing clear: the question of succession was becoming more dangerous than ever. Everything changed in 129 AC with the death of King Viserys I. Instead of recognizing Rhaenyra as the rightful heir, the Greens crowned Aegon II Targaryen. Corlys immediately declared for Rhaenyra, bringing with him the strength of House Velaryon and the largest fleet in Westeros. His support gave the Blacks control of the seas, making him one of the most important figures on Rhaenyra's council. Even during the war, Corlys often argued for restraint. When some suggested burning King's Landing, he rejected the idea outright, insisting that they intended to rule the city, not destroy it. The war soon became deeply personal. After Corlys Velaryon was killed above Storm's End, Corlys and Princess Rhaenys had to stop young Joffrey from rushing into a hopeless revenge mission. Not long afterward came another devastating blow. At the Battle of Rook's Rest, Rhaenys was killed while fighting Aegon II and Prince Aemond. For a time, Corlys blamed Rhaenyra for her death, but he remained loyal to the Black cause after Corlys Velaryon appointed him Hand of the Queen. One of Corlys' most important contributions came with the search for new dragon riders. Under Jacaerys' plan, anyone capable of claiming a riderless dragon was given the chance to do so. Adam of Hull successfully bonded with Seasmoke, and after his mother claimed that Adam and Alyn were Laenor's sons, Corlys persuaded Rhaenyra to legitimize them. He even named Adam as his heir. Whether Adam and Alyn were truly Laenor's children or Corlys' own sons, as Mushroom later claimed, is one of the great mysteries left unanswered by George R.R. Martin. Later that year, the Battle of the Gullet ended in victory for the Blacks, but at an enormous cost. Much of the Velaryon fleet was destroyed, High Tide was burned, Spicetown was sacked, and the priceless treasures Corlys had spent decades collecting were lost forever. His famous response perfectly captured the scale of the disaster. "If this be victory, I pray I never win another." As the war dragged on, Rhaenyra became increasingly suspicious of those around her. After the betrayal of Hugh Hammer and Ulf White, she ordered the arrest of Adam Velaryon. Corlys refused to abandon the man he believed had remained loyal. Instead, he secretly warned Adam, allowing him to escape. For that decision, Corlys was arrested and imprisoned in the Red Keep. His imprisonment immediately weakened Rhaenyra, as many Velaryon soldiers deserted her cause, leaving the queen increasingly isolated. After Rhaenyra's fall, Corlys was released and entered negotiations with Aegon II's supporters. Rather than seeking revenge, he focused on ending the war. He pushed for pardons, demanded the release of Baelor Targaryen, and argued that Aegon the Younger should marry Rhaenyra Targaryen to reunite the divided royal family. Even after joining Aegon II's council, Corlys strongly opposed any plan to execute or mutilate the young prince. Alongside Lord Larys Strong, he quietly worked toward peace, and not long afterward, Aegon II's death finally brought the Dance of the Dragons to an end. Corlys' own struggles were not over. During the Hour of the Wolf, Lord Cregan Stark arrested many of those connected to Aegon II's death, including Corlys himself. Fortunately, the new king, Aegon III Targaryen, ordered him released before he ever stood trial. Corlys then became one of the young king's regents and remained one of the most influential men in the realm until his death in 132 AC, when he collapsed at the age of 79. Even in death, Corlys received a farewell worthy of the sea snake. His body was returned to Driftmark and buried at sea aboard his legendary ship. According to one famous story, the cannibal flew overhead as the vessel disappeared beneath the waves, although no one can say for certain whether it really happened. Corlys Velaryon's legacy reached far beyond the Dance of the Dragons. He transformed House Velaryon into the greatest naval power in Westeros, expanded the known world through his voyages, and stood at the center of nearly every major political event of his lifetime. Few characters in George R.R. Martin's world accomplished as much without ever wearing a crown, and that's exactly why the sea snake remains one of the most respected and admired figures in the history of the Seven Kingdoms. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, subscribing is one of the best ways to support me and help me make more A Song of Ice and Fire videos. Don't forget to let me know in the comments which character you want me to cover next. See you in the next one.